bum 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 bum. Bum 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 bum. Ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 bum. Ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum. Hello, my friends. Hi, Tara from Australia, and Angela from Oklahoma. Hi, everyone. It's great to see you all. I love to see you all joining in. Howdy Teach, says Neely. Hi, Neely. And April from Kentucky, and Jody from Central New York, and hi, everyone from Florida. Hi, Donna. Carrie in Texas, and Becky from Eastern North Carolina, and Wisconsin, and Michigan, and usually, okay, let's see what else we got. Hello from Maine, says Nina, and Robin from Missouri, and Pat from Grand Rapids. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all here. My friends, I love to see you. My name is Jo at Calabrese, and I do this every Monday night, right? Whether we need to or not, we go over homeopathy. I teach you what I know. And for those of you who already know me, my friends, it's great to see you. Same friends around. I see that. Hi, Susan. Thank you, Susan, from New Jersey. Alice is from rainy Toronto. Yeah, it's raining, isn't it? Yep. It's raining around where I am, too. Great. Hi, Bernie from New York. And hi, everyone from Australia, says Monica. Good evening from California. Okay, friends. Listen, tonight we're going to talk about infections. Again, this is the third week in a row, and we could do a lot on infections. It's such an enormous body of information. And so the first thing I ask you to do is to please like and share and send this around so that others get the use of this information. Remember, this is, obviously, it's free. Tonight, I'm going to go to my Mighties for a little while after we meet on Facebook, etc. Tonight on the in the live area, and then we're going to go right to my Mighties, and then I'm going to one step further. We're going to go to Mighties Plus, and so then I'll say goodbye to everyone except those who are in Mighties Plus, and then I'll click out and come back in again, Mighties Plus on a different link. So we could talk forever about infections because there's so many different kinds. And so I'm in touch with Joe DeLivera, otherwise known as Joepathy. And he just wrote to me yesterday morning. And if you don't know who he is, I urge you to find out who he is. He is an elderly gentleman, now 95 years old, using homeopathy exclusively, lives in Sri Lanka, was a very successful businessman for many, many years. He has a tight family around him, for which I'm grateful, because it's good to know that he's comfortable and set, and he's got a good family all the way around him. And he's been using homeopathy and treating people homeopathically for decades for free online. And before there was an online, he's been treating people for free. It is his passion, and he has lots of experience. So he apparently saw my maybe it was a blog, I don't know, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, I talked about for a cold or a flu, I like to use I like Cold Calm from Boron. It's the combination medicine. I like, it's a great medicine. You should have it on hand. Aconitum 200 with Bryonia 30, which is a Banerjee protocol. I like that medicine as well. But he reminded me, Joe, you should be talking about Eupatorium and in his special method. So I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you in Robin Murphy's Meta Repertory what this looks like when we look at just influenza. And so I hope you can see this well. And so what I've done is I've made an arrow to show you where you're going to be looking. And so this is all influenza. These are all the remedies for influenza right here. And right here, I believe, I'm looking at this backwards and on a screen. It's underlined. It's bold and underlined right there. Eupatorium. 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 That is his favorite for colds and flus. And I agree with him because here it is evidenced in this segment from the repertory under clinical influenza. Now, given that I agree with him, why would I tell you to use Aconitum bryonia? Or why would I encourage you to own Coldcom? Why would I do that if I also agree that Eupatorium is a good medicine for influenza? Well, I'll tell you, my friends, because as I showed you here, under influenza, there are many medicines under the category, the rubric, as we call them, for influenza. And so I like having more than one medicine from which to choose. That is the beauty of homeopathy. If a protocol doesn't act, then we go to perhaps another protocol. If that still doesn't act, then we go to another medicine. We go into a repertory and we start digging about. And that's, of course, what I teach in my more advanced classes, that we start with a protocol, if at all possible, because it makes it so easy and fast, and it's been shown to be reproducible. We can get it generally 80 to 85% of the time. The protocol is correct as long as we choose the condition correctly. We have to know what the condition is, and then we also want to consider the symptoms. So I like Eupatorium perforatum, and the way that Joepathy uses it is that he likes to use it in a water dose. What he means is you get an ounce of water, good water, pure water. It doesn't have to be distilled, but the kind of water that you would be comfortable drinking. So if you have a system in your home and you can drink the water from your faucet, that's great. If not, then you have to buy spring water or collect spring water then for your drinking. Then that's the water you're going to use for this medicine. And into about an ounce of water, a little bit like that, you put in a dose of Eupatorium. Now, what's a dose? Well, it depends on what the manufacturing pharmacy you purchase this from. If it's boron, it's usually 5 pills. If it's OHM, it's usually about 4 or 5 pills. So it depends on the pharmacy from which you buy it, because it tells you on the outside of the bottle how many pills comprise a dose. So you get that dose, put it into about an ounce of water, and let it dissolve. Wait for it to dissolve. Some of the pills, if they're Sac-Lac, will take a little bit longer to dissolve, and others that are just lactose will dissolve pretty quickly. Matters not. You wait for it to dissolve, and then you stir it, and then you administer 1 teaspoon as a dose. Now, he likes to use Eupatorium 1M. So that's a high potency. He's had very good results with that in Sri Lanka and other places all around the world. So I don't question him, because he has so many years of treating people all over the world. If you don't have a 1M, I would be perfectly happy using a 200. Now, he's also talked about using Eupatorium as a prophylactic, so that when someone is prone to influenza or colds, then you can use that in advance. Now, here's the thing. It's not something we use willy-nilly. Eupatorium 1M is a high potency. So we use it, even though he may use it prophylactically. I'm going to say, for those of you who are rather new to homeopathy, I'm going to urge you to use it when someone is not feeling well, when you're pretty sure that it is the flu. Yes, Jennifer says in New York, Dr. Joe loves Eupatorium 200C, 1 time a day for prophylactic and 1 if you come down with it. Yes, you're absolutely right. He does like to use it in a 200 as a prophylactic, and we're not going to be using a lot of it. We're not going to be using it. What I mean by that is we're not going to be using it that frequently, perhaps 1 dose a day or so. I see, says Robin. There we go. Yeah, it does help to have the arrow, doesn't it? It really makes a difference. And I'll be using it more often. I just did that last night, and I thought, this is going to make things so much easier. All righty. So let's say you use that Eupatorium as a prophylactic. Let's say you use the 200, okay? And then you find that in spite of that, you still get sick. Then would you still use Eupatorium in a 1M for as the sickness is progressing, is developing? I would. Yes, I would. And then how often might we use it? That teaspoon, take that teaspoon from that mixture. Well, I would say a couple times a day is probably a good idea. Now, yes, his last name is D. Levera, but he's known online as Joepathy. He's become a good friend. And Joe is so no nonsense. I enjoy reading what he has to say. You're right, Dolly. What's lovely about Joepathy is that if someone says, I decided not to take the remedy and instead I took a drug, he scolds them. Look, don't waste my time then. What are you doing here? If you're going to take a drug and you're not going to listen to me, why are you even here? He has said things like that. And I think it's, he's in line. He's in line to say that. Or someone might say, I didn't do it as often as you said, and so it didn't really work. And he says, well, then why are you following why are you even contacting me? He's got a lot of people who follow him. So that's one of the things that I why I hold him in such high regards, because he doesn't take nonsense. All right, let's see what else we've got here. So, the page I'm on is page 2306 under influenza in the clinical section. Now, I also wanted to talk about something different than influenza, even though this is the season. I want to talk about other kinds of infections, like on the skin. How about an infection that develops around the fingernail? Somebody just asked me about that the other day. When I was a little girl, I used to have them all the time. Probably because I bit my nails or I was susceptible. I don't think it was the biting of the nails that did it. I think it was just that I was susceptible at the time. I certainly had my share of antibiotics around that time. And so what normally happens is the person goes to the doctor, it's lanced, it's drained, and then the next one shows up months later or maybe a year later. But we don't like that method because the method that we like for infections around the fingernails, which are called Whitlows, Whitlow, is that correct? L-O-W, I believe, Whitlows. Whitlow is an infection that does indeed occur around the fingernail. I prefer to use a homeopathic medicine for that kind of infection because it can put an end to it. I mean, it actually, it puts a completion to it. Not only does it take away the pain and the swelling and the infection itself at that moment in time as an acute, but if there's a propensity for them returning, and often people who get one or two are going to get many more, especially if they've been to the doctor and gotten antibiotics, because antibiotics simply suppress the condition and drive it to a deeper state so that at some point it's likely to come back again. It uproots it. It dislodges the propensity. So that if the person gets another Whitlow around the fingernail, then the next time it's a smaller version. And then you know exactly what to do. By smaller version, I mean it might be not as swollen, not as painful, not as proud looking. And then we can go to Heparsulf 30 again. And how do we use that? It's Heparsulf 30 twice a day. In the very beginning, if it's really bad the first day, we might use it every 3 hours for a while on that day. And then from that time forward, it's twice a day until it's gone. And that's often the end of it. But as I said, if this person was prone to it and it returns in a few months, we can go right back to heap ourselves again as it's needed because it's being used as an acute. Now, let me also say that Heparsulf, it's Heparsulfuricum calcarea is the full name of the medicine. Heparsulfuricum calcarea, but we call it Heparsulf for short, just two of the words. Thank you. I think that must be Natalie putting this in the text. It is also a great medicine for other kinds of infections that are proud, that are painful, that show pus, etc. I'd like to know what you know. Tell me what you think. Susie B says, interesting. Tell me where you think this Heparsulf will be useful. I like to alternate with belladonna, says Susie B. Yes, if the whitlow is very, very, very painful, yes, or if it's hot and red, then you could alternate with belladonna as well. For toenails too, that's right, Lighty. That's absolutely right. Let's see, what would you, before dental work? Okay, I'm not going to talk about that right now. Would Hepar be good for losing nails after hand, foot, and mouth in 18-year-old? If there's an infection, what we're talking about are infections. So it's not for the loss of a nail. It's for an infection around a nail. Homeopathy is quite specific, my friends. Not only is it symptom specific, condition specific, but even organ specific, okay? Calendula is great for infections around toenail or fingernails as well. That's absolutely so. Beginning of cellulitis. You're so right, Tina. I think that's a very good one. But I like it especially for sore throat. Yep, it's one of my favorites for sore throats. Now, if it is a screaming, red, painful sore throat, we're going to do as, who was it? Who just said that? That she likes to use, Susie. Susie B says she likes to use Heparsulf alternating with belladonna for a whitlow that's likely very painful, red and sore and hot even. We can do exactly the same for when there's a throat infection. Tonsils, uvula, or just in general, an infection in the throat. You can use Heparsulf 30, love it. And if the pain is quite severe and or there's a very considerable fever and it's painful, now we could alternate that with belladonna. And either one of them, I would use them in a 30. Both of them. Yeah. I'll answer that in a second, Caroline. I'm glad that you mentioned that. So because we don't, and we would use that perhaps if it's bad enough, every 15 minutes for 1 hour. After that, it's every 3 or 4 hours. And we're always looking to taper off. We don't want to taper off too soon, but we also don't want to take it too frequently. So in the beginning, we start out by loading up the first hour, 4 times in that hour. But if the person is much better after that, then we back off. And then we watch to see when it's needed again. And we're using symptoms. How painful is that whitlow? How painful is that strep throat? How bad does the person feel? And we're looking also for indications, satellite conditions around this person's suffering, indications that show us that, that the person is improving. So with a sore throat, now let's say it's a person who's been on or in bed for the last day with this sore throat. And after using Heparsulf, now they're getting up and they're thinking about having maybe a cup of bone stock or a little cup of tea or something. So you know something's improving. There's your indicator. The pain's not quite as severe. It's still there. Still there. So when it's still there, it does not mean, my friends, oh no, the medicine didn't act. Not at all. Instead, my friends, what it does is it helps give us information as to whether or not the person is moving in the direction of completion of the condition. Okay. All right. Curious why 6C for gum abscesses and not 30C or higher for HEEP ourself. Carolyn asks. 6C is we do not want this medicine in a 30C on the gums for a gum boil, or an abscess on the gum. We always use a 6 because they have different actions, and a 30 can be too hard to reabsorb the infection, and a 6C can help push it slightly out. And, okay, and what would you recommend to take before or after dental instead of antibiotics? I have a full hip replacement. Okay, not going to talk about that today, I'm sorry, but I do talk about that in my course, Antibiotic Alternatives. That is that course, and I urge you to consider that. If you're learning homeopathy, I want you to consider these courses, or at least a study group, Gateway to Homeopathy. And the best way to find out is you go to Joette's Learning Center, and you can scroll down and look at the courses as well as the Gateway groups. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Yes, Neely says HEEP ourselves 6 is specific for dental stuff. That's true. But it's not necessarily, and it could be useful for this person, but it's not my first choice. Let's see. Oh, here's somebody's got an idea. Tina says, I took arnica and hypericum to prevent infection in dental work. I took a dose of Staphysagra for the bone trauma, then hypericum and arnica, no infection, and I was great. That could also be used. It's still not what I'm thinking. Just finished antibiotic alternative course. The best, says Pat. Thanks, Pat, for mentioning. When is the boomeropathy course? I know, Carrie, we're working on it. I'm hoping this next couple months or so. Let's see. How to choose Eupatorium versus Aconitum bryonia. It's a good point. Knowing that Aconitum is a medicine that is used for when it's a quick onset or a cold wind blowing on the person and then they get sick. Quick onset, meaning you're driving along, the kids are in the car, and you feel perfectly fine. You get to your destination 5 minutes later and suddenly you feel like, uh-oh, I feel something coming on. That quick. And you feel like, I really should be home. I feel as though if I don't nip this in the bud, but you are going to nip it in the bud because you're going to have your remedies with you. My friends, not only do I keep remedies in my purse, but I also have a kit under the passenger seat at all times. Even though I live a good amount of time in Florida where it's very, very hot, I don't care. Those remedies still act even after being sat in a hot car for hours, even days. So you're going to have your medicines right there with you so that you don't have to wait any longer than get back home. So Aconitum is a quick onset. 1 minute you're fine, bam, the next you're feeling, uh-oh, I'm really coming down with something. That is a key. Bryonia is very specific for the lungs. So can also be the sinuses, but especially for the lungs. So it's a specific for someone who everything goes to the lungs. Every time they get sick, they know it's going to the lungs. That's a very good reason to consider bryonia. Eupatorium is overall as well. It's also sinuses and infection, all the throat and down into the chest. But it doesn't have that same quick onset and also worse from a cold wind. So if you've gone out of the car, it's raining or it's cold, and you feel the cold wind, and ever since then, you feel something coming on. That would give you an indication that Aconitum could be a very good choice. Yeah, very good. Nancy from Delaware says, I have 2 kits in the car, an emergency kit and a cold flu virus kit, always. Yes. So Nora says, look at gunpowder and creosote for gum tooth infection. You're right. All righty. Those are also very good medicines. You're absolutely right, Nora, from BC. Oh, no, from South Carolina. All right. Let's see what else we've got. What about Ledum? Ledum, I'm not sure. Maybe it was for a question that was brought up earlier, a point that I was making earlier. I'd use it for a sore throat, says Deb. Yep, you're probably talking about Heparin sulf, right? Yep, here we go. I used Heparin sulf for a bleeding eye infection in the skin under a dog's eye. Heparin sulf is excellent for eye infections. Excellent. Conjunctivitis. And other eye infections such as that. And, oh, I wish I knew this 15 years ago, says Amina, when I had bad nail infections and had 3 doses of antibiotics every time, stronger and stronger, and I never healed. I ended up learning about tea tree oil and garlic, and that did it. Meanwhile, antibiotics gave me bad candida and yeast that I suffered with for 2 years, and how do I praise homeopathy now? Thanks, Joette. Yes, absolutely, my friend. You know, many of us come from that world. First, we use what the doctor tells us to use, antibiotic, steroid, birth control pills, and then we say, you know what, the jig's up. I figured this out. Something's wrong with this method. I don't like this model at all. And then we go to the next idea, and that might be colloidal silver or changing the diet or essential oils, etc., etc. Garlic, I used garlic for a long time with my first son. Yes, tea tree oil, all of those are very good, but what you've done, my friends, by being here tonight and following me and homeopathy in general is that you've moved to a much bigger and better model. All of those have value to a certain degree. Homeopathy trumps it all. This is the cadence. We have come to the end of the road in terms of what medicine is capable of doing. And these are not herbs, as you know, for those of you who are new. They're not botanicals, they're not supplements or vitamins. This is medicine. It's real medicine. This is the medicine you thought you were getting. I thought I read somewhere that Heparin sulf is antidoted by belladonna. Let me just tell you, my friends, I have found that antidotes can be a problem, but more often they are not. We have a lot of medicines in our let's say in our quiver that are mixed together and are antidotes, considered antidotes, and yet they still act. So I don't worry about it if it's called for, because Heparin sulf is it's clear, because it's painful and it's swollen and proud. Let's say for the whitlow, and then belladonna is hot. Then I wouldn't. It's hot, and belladonna represents the heat. By all means, my friends, I would still use them. All right. Yes, here we go. Heparin sulf 6 was what got my cat's eye abscess to open and drain within an hour. I used Heparin sulf on an abscess on our cat many years ago as well. She had an abscess on her shoulder, and she was getting them all the time. I mean, it was constant. Until I said, okay, all right, I'll treat the cat. Let's do it. And I gave her Heparin sulf, and that was the last one. I also took Hyper-Rs at other times during the same time. Hyper-Rs, that's the medicine I was thinking of earlier. Replying to Alice, I was introduced to homeopathy through anthroposophical medicine 30 plus years ago. I threw away the philosophy part and stuck with the pure homeopathy. Yeah, Deb, I think you've got a point there. That's really... it is, anthroposophic medicine is a whole nother world, unrelated to, well, I don't know. Is it related to homeopathy? I suppose it incorporates some homeopathy in it. Okay, what potency of Heparin sulf for dental infection? I already talked about that, and abscesses, got all that. Heparin sulf 6. Okay, I think I've got it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say goodbye to my Monday Night Live friends on Facebook, etc., and we're going to go directly to just Joette's Mighty Members for about 15 minutes, and from there we're going to go to the next group. So I'm going to say goodbye, everyone. Happy Advent.